Hello, Whovians, and welcome to my latest Doctor Who review, where today I review the fourth episode of Series 2 of Doctor Who, which stars David Tennant as the 10th Doctor, The Girl in the Fireplace. This is also the 171st Doctor Who story overall. The Girl in the Fireplace, this is actually written by Stephen Moffat. God help us. No, I'm only joking. In actual fact, Stephen Moffat, this was at a good point in his writing career before he started running Doctor Who. More on that later. In any case, the basic plot is as follows. For their first trip with Mickey, the 10th Doctor and Rose end up on a spaceship in the future that contains several portals to pre-revolutionary France. When he steps through one of the portals, shaped like a fireplace, the Doctor discovers an even greater mystery of actual romantic love. The Girl in the Fireplace. I used to watch this episode quite a lot as a kid because originally, when they used to do these vanilla releases of the series, I think me and my sister owned the first two vanilla releases of Series 2, which contained... The first one was The Christmas Invasion and New Earth, and then the second one was Tooth and Claw, School Reunion, Girl in the Fireplace, and that was the first DVD of Doctor Who I ever had. So, back when I was like 9 or 10 years old, we used to watch those episodes quite a lot, so I'm quite familiar with The Girl in the Fireplace. Looking at it now, several years later, how does it hold up? I still really like The Girl in the Fireplace. It's not the best episode of the series, but it's a very good episode. I really do think that the plot is incredibly clever, actually, considering that it's written by Stephen Moffat. Stephen Moffat would go on to write very convoluted Doctor Who scripts in the Matt Smith and Peter Capaldi era, but that was when he was running the show. In this instance, the script I actually think is very good, and I think it's clever, the idea that the ship, which is called the SS Madame de Pompadour, although we don't find that out to the very end, has these different time windows which go into the life of this woman called Renette, who's a French lady, and these clockwork robots are like scanning her brain, and they're trying to check until when she's 37, to when her brain will be complete and compatible for the ship. The episode is basically a love story, and I do get the sense of a sort of fairy tale-esqueness about this. The idea of the Doctor being her imaginary friend, and then she kind of falls in love with this guy who comes into her life in different places, and he's kind of like this fallen angel, as she describes him, and always fighting the monsters and the demons in her life, and... yeah, you can definitely kind of see the idea of him being her sort of knight in shining armour. Don't get me wrong, it's very tenderly written and it's very sweet, and David Tennant and Sophia Myles have great chemistry. But part of me thinks that this kind of doesn't have a place in Series 2, because the Doctor and Rose are kind of falling in love. Well, or at least that's what it will end up being by the end of Series 2. So I kind of feel like this episode is a bit contradictory to the main series arc as well. Clearly, Stephen Moffat was saying fuck you to Rose by writing this episode. I don't know what Stephen Moffat's opinion is of the character of Rose, but clearly the kiss scene between the Doctor and Renette was written into, fuck you, Rose. Basically, that's how I choose to see it. I don't know if the Doctor is in love with Renette. I don't know if I can really say that. I think maybe towards the end, before he gets the letter, there's definitely a chemistry there, but I don't know if the Doctor is like head over heels for her by the end. I think he cares for her deeply, but I don't know if he loves her. She definitely loves him. There's that inclination, and I just don't know, because I just don't know if it really works with the main story arc of the series. That's what I'm trying to say. However, Sophia Myles is fantastic as Renette. She gives this character so much emotion, and what I like about the story is that it is also quite emotional, how we do see Renette's life as well, literally, all the way from when she was a little girl to her death. So it makes the end of the episode that much more tragic when Renette sadly passes. It's tragic because she falls ill. She's 43. I mean, back in those days, medical science was not as evolved as it is now, so people were dying at a much younger age, and she was 43, so... yeah, damn, it's pretty sad. It's hard-hitting, and when the Doctor gets that letter at the end, yeah, that is pretty heartbreaking. I want to give a shout-out to Jessica Atkins, who plays Little Renette, who appears at the beginning of the episode with David Tennant. She's very good in her little one scene. I do quite like that. I think the clockwork robots are actually quite cool. I really like them as villains. They're good. The voices are a bit... I don't know, maybe the voices could have been a bit better. Not yet, you are incomplete. That's kind of how they sound. The voices are a bit mundane, but they look pretty freaky with those masks, and the way they have these blades that kind of, almost like these hidden blades that come out and work like clockwork, and when you take off the masks, you see a weird contraption going on. I think their design is absolutely incredible. I think they are really, really good villains. You could argue that maybe the story is a bit weird, in the sense that they're trying to get this ship to move, but they need the brain of Madame de Pompadour, and they've been using the crew's parts to kind of keep the ship running. Like, there's this real heart that's beating, wired up to the machinery, and there's also this eye in like a sort of camera. It is a little bit weird, but it is Doctor Who. But perhaps Stephen Moffat did kind of overthink that a little bit. You could argue that that part is quite bizarre, and maybe doesn't work with the whole fairy tales, love story thing. However, though, the girl in the fireplace gives us one of the most badass moments from the 10th Doctor, when he rides through the glass time window on a horse. That was epic. That was really, really good. And he did that almost trapping himself in that time period. So I guess we were meant to think that he does love Rinette enough to do that. But then we discover that she moved the fireplace and there is a loose connection and he's able to get back. So I suppose the ending is a little contradictory in that sense, but I'll let it go. I also think Murray Gould's music is amazing this time. That the music is very beautiful and very emotive this time, and definitely more romantic, especially during the kiss scene between the Doctor and Rinette, which does happen quite early. If I were writing the story, maybe the kiss would have come a bit later. But, oh well. I guess, I mean, at that point anyway, Rinette was an adult, so she spent most of her life kind of thinking about the Doctor and wanting him to come back. I think the production design is incredible for this, because what we have are two separate sets, basically. We have the ship, the SS Madame de Pompadour, which the Doctor, Rose and Mickey are on for most of the story, and then Rinette's house, or mansion, whatever, in pre-revolutionary France, which looks just astounding. They've really captured the architecture of that and the design very well, and the costumes also look very, very exuberant of that time, and it looks very detailed. I think the performances are very good. David Tennant is great as the Doctor, and there's actually quite a lot of funny moments he has as well when he's drunk. He comes in saving Mickey and Rose, and he's got his tie wrapped around his head, and he's wearing sunglasses, and he's drinking wine, and he's just had a dance with Rinette, and he's completely drunk, and I love that when he's saying, "Oh, you're so thick, you're Mr. Thickety Thickface from Thicktown, Thickania, and so's your dad." He's just great in this one. He also plays the sad moments very well, especially towards the end when he discovers Rinette has died. And the look of sadness on his face, he really transpires through. Like I said, this episode is quite emotive in many ways, and when he reads the letter, it's pretty powerful stuff, and you can just see on his face just says it all. Tennant has a very good sad face as the Doctor. Billie Piper as Rose, she's pretty good as well. She doesn't get as much to do this time, but she is good. Same with Noel Clarke as Mickey, and it's nice that Mickey gets to join the TARDIS crew for once, and he gets a bit of involvement in the adventure as well. Another mention of a supporting character called King Louis, played by Ben Turner. He's very good, and he delivers the news to the Doctor that Rinette has passed away, which is very sad. And there's a great final scene between the Doctor and Rinette when he thinks he's trapped, and then they're looking at the stars, and he says, "Oh, you know, here's to the slow path." And then he's gonna get her to travel with him. They're gonna go off and sort of see the stars together. But then obviously the tragic event happens, and that's not to be. I also like the fact that the Doctor names the horse Arthur. Like, he just finds the horse on a spaceship. It's quite funny. The Girl in the Fireplace overall is a really good episode. It's incredibly well acted, very emotive. It looks great. It's very well written. The only issues I have with it are its slight contradictions to the Doctor and Rose love story that goes on in series 2. And also maybe some of the stuff on the ship is a little bit weird and bizarre, but it's still a very strong episode, so I will give this story a 9 out of 10. And with that, here's to the slow path. So anyway, thank you very much for watching this review. What do you think of The Girl in the Fireplace? Please comment down below, let me know, and stay tuned next time when I review the first two-parter of this series, Rise of the Cybermen and the Age of Steel. Until then, I'm Mr. TARDIS 11. See you soon. Bye for now.